Welcome, everyone. This is Chasing Labels episode number 142 as the music fades away, or spine number 142. Yes, or 142, however you like to say it. It doesn't really quite matter to me. But the only thing that's important to me is that you're here to listen and watch, depending on wherever you are in the world, whenever you are in the world. And hey, we are back here once again. 2 weeks does fly by pretty fast. We are towards the end of June. July is in literally 1 week from today. I try to wrap my head around that earlier today, and I'm just like, wow, July is already upon us. It feels like June is moving right along way too quickly, and there's a lot to talk about over the last 2 weeks. Um, just in the world of announcements and just everything. But let's see who we have here. Let's wait a few minutes to see if people start shuffling in, or whatever the case may be. So we've got Humboldt Horror Honey. Hello, everyone. Hello to you, Horror Honey, as well. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Yeah, so we will be going into, of course, doing the usual thing that we do here. If you're not familiar with the show here on Chasing Labels, we go over not every single announcement for home media over the last little while, but we go over at least the ones that are interesting to me, perhaps interesting to you, ones that I wanted to eventually add to my collection. It's really hard to keep up with all of the great announcements, all of the great releases that have come out, especially this year. This year's been really heavy, especially the last couple of months. And we've got some big ones that were announced within the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, I celebrated my birthday, my 37th birthday, which was June 17th. That was really exciting. I did get to do my usual birthday celebrations. I don't know what it is with this year, but I felt like this year, when it came to my birthday, I felt a little lighter, a little more rejuvenated, a little more happy, and didn't have so much existential dread, which I typically have. I don't know why that's the case. Usually, I listen to Time by Hans Zimmer and have an existential crisis every single year. Didn't do that this year. So I don't know if that's progress, or if just the veil is lifting when it comes to just the dread of getting older. But I did pick up a few things for my birthday, as I always like to do. Usually I wait until after my birthday, and that's where I kind of really dive in. But I did get a few things that I've been wanting to get for the last little while. And I think the biggest thing for me was getting Joseph Losey's The Servant. This is the 4K UHD from Studio Canal. Studio Canal. I know this has been out for a couple of years now. I've just not gotten it. I know Steven has had it for a while, and a bunch of you are pretty sure have had it. And this is absolutely loaded with special features. This is the limited 3-disc edition. It really dwarfs the one that was put out by um by Criterion. I know Criterion just put out a Blu-ray of it, and this is the 4K. So the 4K looks better, and plus this has more extras than the Criterion does. I know the Criterion may have some things that this doesn't have, but this way makes up for it. I love Joseph Losey as well. I've been trying to collect all of his movies that are on Blu-ray, and I'm slowly getting there. I've got The Ceremony. I've got a bunch of other ones that he's done. I've got to get some more. I know there's at least one by Indicator that I have to get. I think maybe out of stock, or at least the limited edition is. But I got this. What else did I get? Now I'm forgetting where I put everything. I got 3 more here. I went on to eBay and got my hands on the limited edition of Red Rock West, the one from Vinegar Syndrome. And I know this has been released a couple of times. It's been released overseas in a couple of places. I think, did Umbrella put this out? I think they may have. And then we talked about the initial release when it came out on Blu-ray, a year or 2 ago, from a company in the UK. I can't remember what it is. But this is the new edition from Cinematograph. Hello, FilmNut79. I think that's Tony. Hello. I'm just going over the stuff I got for my birthday from that was on the 17th. So I've just been going over some of the good stuff. I figured I might as well share it now. And I wasn't quite 100% familiar with this new label from Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, of course, we've talked about it on the show, but I didn't have one in hand. So I didn't really know kind of how it was set up. So it's set up pretty much kind of like like a digibook, for the most part, or a media book as they like to call them. But I'm really liking it. I really like it. This is the only one so far that I think the limited edition is out of stock on Vinegar Syndrome's website, and is becoming tougher to find online. I had to get mine on eBay, which is kind of what you have to do sometimes. You got to pay way over what the original price was, but for collecting purposes, you got to do what you got to do. So I got that, and then I got a couple of things from Grindhouse Video. I got the Muppets Take Manhattan in 4K UHD, which looks amazing. I know this came out a little while ago. People were raving about how good it looks. I always try to catch up on my Muppets. Got to get all the Muppet stuff. Um, and yeah, I've been hoping they'll put out the Muppet movie in 4K. That would be awesome. So I got that, and of course I had to get Pearl because Maxine is coming out in what, a week and a half, 2 weeks time, not even. So I had to get that. Of course, I've seen this movie I think twice already, but I didn't have it in a collection. I have X. But I wanted to get this so that when Maxine comes out, I can get that. Even though I think they're doing more than a trilogy. I don't know. I heard that they may do a fourth movie, but Maxine's coming out next month. So let me set all that aside, and let's get into what's been going on over the last 2 weeks when it comes to movie announcements. But of course, I have to delay that for a second because in sad news, we lost the late great Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland, who is, of course, the father of Kiefer Sutherland, but of course, he had a momentous career of so many film and television roles. I was looking at his IMDb, 199 credits, and I believe he's got at least one upcoming credit as well. And I know probably many of you know of Donald Sutherland's work. I, of course, have many of his stuff in my collection. I just wanted to share a few things. Of course, he has that great scene in JFK, which is just immense with Kevin Costner. This movie itself is immense. This is the 4K from Shout Studios. Of course, he was President Snow in all of the Hunger Games films. I think that's where a lot of the new generation knows him from. These editions here are actually all the Target exclusive ones that came out back when, we had store exclusives, and now Target and Best Buy and Walmart kind of really don't do those things anymore. So I've got all of those, and of course I've got some other key Donald Sutherland films. Clue from Criterion. I've got Backdraft. He's in a great scene in Backdraft. I think he actually steals this whole movie. Really, he is. He's just this, I believe, this kind of insane arsonist who's in prison, and his monologue he has about his relationship with fire, or the way fire he romanticizes it, is chilling to the bone in this film. And I've had this Blu-ray in my collection for a long time. As you can see, this is kind of an older style, a slipcover. There is a 4K of this, which is really, really good. Apparently looks really, really good. And then we've got a Don't Look Now, of course. This has been since upgraded to 4K by the Criterion Collection. And then Robert Altman's MASH. And then Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I've talked about many times on here, how I waited years to get it, even though I talked about it on the show for so long. So all of that is Donald Sutherland stuff. Pretty sure I've got more, but he had such a momentous long career. Really one of the best actors, I think, of our lifetimes. Really, if you look at his body of work and you look at his legacy, just an immense actor. Really sad that he passed away. But yeah, we have all of his work to kind of look back on and memorialize him for all that he gave to us in terms of his craft and his artistic ability. So yeah, really cool. Let me check out some of the comments here before we go. We can move along. Film the scene. Tony says that scene from JFK was the ultimate highlight from the film. That's the scene they always show in highlights, isn't it? It's that sit down on the park bench scene when he's telling him about, follow the money and all this kind of stuff, and who benefited from all of this, and that whole scene is so iconic. And then let's see, more from Tony here. We've got all great choices. We cannot forget Don't Look Now. Of course, I showed it. Um, And then we have Humboldt Horror Honey, I Don't Look Now, and Little Murders Are Faves. So let's move on to some stuff here. Let me take a look at my notes, and let's start off with, you know what, Sandpiper. So Sandpiper Films, um, no, Sandpiper Pictures rather, has their upcoming release slate, and this is stuff from September. Sandpiper is a company we really don't talk a lot about here. They don't put out things that are on a typically regular basis, at least from the stuff that we've talked about. But these are some interesting releases here. They're putting out Moby Dick with Gregory Peck from 1956. That's really interesting. Moby Dick has been adapted so many times, so many times. Um, the classic literature book that I'm pretty sure many of you were supposed to read in school, perhaps had to read or never read. I know I never got to read it. Honestly, that's one I got to go back to read. But we've got the movie called Saving Grace, which is a fascinating film that I got to watch for the first time. It's a movie that is interesting in the sense that it's dealing with kind of a crisis of faith from a pope perspective. Um, Let me see. Let me go on to my letterbox, which I should have brought up, but I didn't. So the movie stars Tom Conti, and he plays a pope. It's not. I don't think it's based on a real pope. It's kind of a fictitious pope, and he's having a crisis of faith where he's a newly elected Pope Leo the 14th finds himself accidentally locked out of the Vatican, unknown to the outside world. He winds up in an impoverished Italian village where his adventures ultimately teach the Pope and his new friends some important lessons about friendship and self-esteem, written by Chris DeSantis. This is directed by Robert M. Young, um, who I yeah um, he did the movie Alambrista, which does have a Criterion release. I remember when that came out. Um, yeah, Alambrista. I've never seen it though. This is the only film of his I believe I've seen. But Saving Grace, this is a film from 1986, and just by that premise, I think you kind of understand the way the movie's going to go. He's a pope who gets locked out of the Vatican because he's dressed in street clothes, and he ends up in this small, impoverished village, and he kind of like ingratiates himself to the people living there. He finds out like their plights and what's going on, really on a ground level when it comes to what the people are struggling with, things like food and shelter and harsh living situations, stuff like that. But also the fact that this town is also kind of being run by a couple of, kind of local gangsters, I guess, where they're just manipulating and they're kind of taking advantage of the impoverished people and trying to get rich off of that. And he's trying to kind of help them by rebuilding an aqueduct, which I think it's more metaphorical than literal. This aqueduct becomes kind of this metaphor for the people's hopes of a better future and a better tomorrow and lifting themselves up and all this kind of spiritual uplifting and whatnot. So you can kind of understand how that movie goes along. So that is Saving Grace from 1986, and I don't believe that they list out any of the special features here. Um, yeah, I just think they just gave us the list of the movies. Yeah, they did. So we have the next film here, which is something I definitely want to get. This is The Hound of the Baskervilles. This is, of course, the Sherlock Holmes adaptation directed by Terence Fisher, starring Peter Cushing as Sherlock Holmes. Um, this is a classic, I think. This is a classic Hammer film, not Hammer, just straight up Hammer. This is a movie that has been put out on Blu-ray before. It's been put out on Blu-ray by Twilight Time, and I believe that's long out of print. It was put out by Arrow in the UK, I think, years ago, 2016, maybe somewhere around there. So it's a movie that's made its rounds in the Blu-ray HD world, but it's a classic in my opinion, and the movie is a classic adaptation of that story. When a nobleman is threatened by a family curse on his newly inherited estate, Detective Sherlock Holmes is hired to investigate. So there's this murder that happens, and they believe to this family, to like the head of this family, and the family then believes, or the person who inherits the estate believes that the family's cursed. There's this hound, this supernatural beast that's like hunting this family or whatever. And I believe the head of the house, the heir apparent, is Christopher Lee, portrayed by Christopher Lee. So you get Peter Cushing and you get Christopher Lee. They share scenes together. That's enough to get me just to watch the movie, and it's enough to get me to own the movie. Really, it is. I just love them on screen together, and you can never go wrong with Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, in my opinion. It's at least worth a watch. The old limited edition Twilight Time release came out in 2016, so that must have been one of their later releases. And if I remember correctly, it had a couple of special features. It had two audio commentaries. It had a special feature here that ran about 15 minutes long. It says Margaret Robinson talks about the Hound of the Baskervilles. It's an interesting interview with the Hound mask maker. And there's a Hound of the Baskervilles read by Christopher Lee. So it's audio supplements that play to various illustrations, and this was all on the Twilight Time release. I would love if this was carried over. Sometimes the Twilight Time release special features are carried over, like the commentaries. So hopefully a lot of this stuff gets carried over as well. I believe there's an archival piece here with Christopher Lee talking about Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, I want all of that carried over to this Sandpiper Pictures release. But yeah, really cool stuff. I always like these Sherlock Holmes adaptations. So moving on from there, let's see what else Sandpiper has. So that's Hound of the Baskervilles from 1959. Oh, the movie Lady in White. So this is an interesting film. Let me get my Letterboxd log information about this. So Lady in White is a movie directed by Frank LaLoggia. That's a heck of a name. Frank LaLoggia. Came out in 1988. The year is 1962. The place is Willow Point Falls. Nobody talks about what happened in the school cloakroom 10 years ago. Now in the dead of night, Frankie Scarletti is going to find out why. Locked in a school closet during Halloween 1962, young Frank witnesses the ghost of a young girl and the man who murdered her years ago. Shortly afterward, he finds himself stalked by the killer and is soon drawn to an old house where a mysterious lady in white lives. As he discovers the secret of the woman, he soon finds that the killer may be someone close to him. So what we got here is a murder mystery from the perspective of a child, which is rather interesting. It's rather interesting because you can see how the adults in this community don't, not reliable. They're not reliable, essentially. And it's kind of up to this kid to kind of figure these things out by himself. And he's witnessing these tragic events that happened years earlier to this now deceased young girl, through like ghost and surreal perspectives, and the sequences are done very well. I really, really like this film a lot. It is streaming right now on Tubi, so you can check it out there as of this recording. And yeah, I really like this movie. I don't want to give away any of the spoilers or anything like that, or who the killer may or may not be. Just like it's an interesting journey that this boy has to go along, and it's quite harrowing and heartbreaking, especially when you have children involved. You know what I mean? When their innocence are shattered in a certain way, you really get deeply emotionally affected by things like that. So that is Lady in White from 1988 by Frank LaLoggia, put out by Sandpiper Pictures. Let me go back to the various tabs here. I wish I had these better labeled, but I don't. So that's Lady in White. Let's see, what else did I watch from them? I think that's about it. Let me go check my notes before we move on. I probably should have done this beforehand. Nope, let's move on. We got everything. So let's move on to Old Reliable Kino, because Kino has been heavily busy lately, and I just exited out of something that I probably shouldn't have, but that's okay. We're in the Kino. We're in the Kino place. So let me scroll down to get what we have for Kino. Yes, so first things up here is a movie called The Court Martial of Billy Mitchell and it's starring Gary Cooper, and you can kind of guess what the movie is based off of the title. It's directed by Otto Preminger. That's kind of the reason I wanted to watch it, and that's the reason I would recommend people to watch it. It's coming soon on Blu-ray. It says from a 2023 HD master by Paramount Pictures from a 4K scans. So it could come this year or it could come next year, but it is coming. And this movie, like I said, stars Gary Cooper. And it's an interesting movie based on a true story. So I learned about this back in history class. This was a real life person who kind of ruffled the feathers of the military in the 1920s because he postulated that the next war or the future wars would be fought in the air. Basically, that airplanes would be the chief or would be a chief military um, avenue in warfare. And at the time, this was post World War One. What happened after World War One, for a brief history lesson, is in the Treaty of Versailles. Basically, the whole world demilitarized. The whole world cut their military pretty much down to bare bones. For the most part, they kind of threw their weapons and tanks and things into the ocean, essentially. So there wasn't a lot of funding when it came to military things. Basically, everyone was so traumatized after that war that they tried to avoid war at all costs by not funding military, by de-escalating military weapons advancement and weapons manufacturing, all that kind of stuff in the 1920s and 1930s. Ironically, I think a lot of that ended up leading up to the causes of World War II. But Billy Mitchell postulated that planes could take out aircraft carriers. Planes are going to be a huge thing. And the military did not like that he was saying these things. He criticized them for their underfunding, for the way they were training and all this kind of stuff. And he got court-martialed for it. And he was found guilty. Obviously, history did dictate that he was correct. And he was vindicated years and years after his death. I think he was awarded medals, actually, after he had died. I believe he died 1936, like mid to late 1930s. So he didn't even live to see World War II. But it would be later on that his family would kind of appeal his court-martial convictions and stuff like that, and they would find out that he was right. He was essentially right. As we know with Pearl Harbor, as we know with the way aircraft is now a big part of modern day military and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I remember learning about that. And this movie is a dramatization of all of that stuff. And Gary Cooper plays it well. He plays it stoic. He plays it firm. And this is later Gary Cooper, where he was probably at his most stoic. Yeah, this is 1955. So this was like later Gary Cooper, and he plays it a little stiff. You know what I mean? It's kind of an emotional role, and he plays it a little stiff, I would say. But it's not a bad movie. Otto Preminger is a great director. I would say check it out if you're a fan of both of those guys. So that is The Court Martial of Billy Mitchell by Otto Preminger, put out by Kino. And the next we have another old classic actor doing a movie later on in his career, and that is Clark Gable. And he's paired up with Doris Day in Teacher's Pet. And Teacher's Pet is directed by George Seaton, who did Miracle on 34th Street, The Country Girl, and Airport. So this is a movie that's kind of a romantic comedy. Well, it is a romantic comedy. So Clark Gable is a newspaper man. He works at a newspaper and he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of an asshole. He is someone who has a bit of an ego to him, and he doesn't like when people kind of take him down a peg. So he gets called in to be a guest lecturer in a college course, and a college course with adults who are learning journalism. And Doris Day is the teacher, so he shows up there, and she doesn't realize that he's him, and who he is, and she reads this letter that he sent saying that he wasn't going to show up and he was too busy for this and all this kind of stuff. So she ridicules him, not knowing that he is in the classroom right there. So he hears that and decides that he's going to pretend to be someone who signed up for the course. He's going to take the course himself. And he's going to show her up that, because he's this big newspaper guy. And so it's Clark Gable kind of trying to show up Doris Day the whole time. And he's being very asshole-ish about it, and he's playing with her, manipulating her, but this romantic flirtation kind of starts, at least from his perspective. and he gets very jealous of other suitors that she has, and he's trying to kind of suit her himself. That's where the romantic comedy aspect takes over. And the whole teacher's pet thing is an interesting choice of title. I think doesn't do the film, I think, any favors, but the film is kind of fun and light in that regard. But it's okay. It's okay. I think Clark Gable may be a little too old for the role. I think, unfortunately, this is one of his later roles in his career, and you can kind of tell that he is an older actor at this point. Still has the screen presence, still has the charm, but this would be, I think, about 4 or 5 years before his passing. So he was an older gentleman at the time, and I felt like him with Doris Day weren't quite the pairing I think that they wanted on screen, but it works. It works for what the movie is. We got some more comments here. Josie showed up. Hello, Josie. Hello, Andrew. I just finished reading The Wild Robot by Peter Brown in anticipation for the film, which is based on all three books. Interesting. Interesting. I'm coincidentally also reading something that well, actually was already turned into a movie. I'm reading Cloud Atlas, which of course was turned into a movie by the Wachowskis several years ago. I've had it in my collection for many years. I bought it at a used bookstore many years ago, and I just started reading it now, and it is about as like um you know I would say reserved, not reserved, but you know how the movie is kind of done in an anthological form? So is the book. And it's a little jarring because each part of the book of Cloud Atlas is has a different style to it. Like one is written as a journal entry diary, the other one's written as like a murder mystery or political conspiracy theory, and another one is written as like a correspondence or whatever. So it's a lot of different literary forms, but they're all kind of connected so far. I'm only about like a quarter of the way through it. But that's me and my reading stuff. What else did Josie say? I also recently read Contra Island by Eden Joyce, which I would describe as Harry Potter meets Eve's Bayou. Wow. And Daughters of the Dust. That's an interesting combination. So you've got magic. There's there's magic going on in there somewhere. Very cool. Very cool. But back to what I was saying, Teacher's Pet. Yes, so we've got Teacher's Pet by Kino. Um, let's move on from there. Let me scroll up, see what else Kino's got. Kino is putting out a re-release of 99 River Street. So 99 River Street, I believe, is a film noir. And they're putting out a re-release of that. It's from the same master, I think, from 2016. It's got an audio commentary by film historian and host of TCM's Noir Alley, Eddie Muller, who was a guest here 2 years ago on Chasing Labels. One of the highlights of my life was getting to talk to Eddie Muller. Very, very cool. So he's got an intro, he's got an audio commentary on this here from 99 River Street. And yeah, this is a movie I haven't seen, but definitely I've been wanting to add to the collection for a while. So I gotta add it. Navajo Joe, which I think we talked about with Burt Reynolds, is getting a release. Um, and yeah, I think that, yeah, this is 99 River Street is coming out on August 13th, and so is Navajo Joe. But moving on from there, we did get a release date for the Lee Marvin, Gene Hackman, and Sissy Spacek starring film Prime Cut, which I talked about last week or last episode when they had just announced it. It's coming out August 20th in 4K UHD. That's worth an upgrade. What a movie! What a movie! The Lady Killers is coming out August 27th. We talked about that, I think, on oh gee, when Steven was still hosting here with me. We talked about The Lady Killers. This is the original one with Alec Guinness and Peter Sellers, not the Coen Brothers remake with Tom Hanks. So we got the date for Sudden Death, which I talked about last time, for August 27th. But then we got some new stuff here. So coming soon is a brand new master from 4K scan of a 35 millimeter original camera negative for the movie called Hiding Out, starring John Cryer in 1987. This is a movie that it doesn't have the best reviews on Letterboxd. The premise of this movie is interesting. By interesting, I mean like it makes me scratch my head. It makes me wonder. It's very 80s centric type of plot. So, a very successful stockbroker is called to court to testify against the mob boss who was into some inside trading. Andrew Morensic must become Max Hauser and go back to high school for protection from the mob. So you've got John Cryer as an adult going back to high school to hide out in witness protection because the mob is after him. Sounds like something you could only do in the 80s. Sounds so absurd. So absurd. But yeah, but whatever, whatever. So they're putting that out. Um, so that's coming out sometime soon. Who knows if it's going to be a Blu-ray or 4K? They don't really say here. But next we've got a movie that we've talked about a long time ago, and that is Internal Affairs, which was part of um one of the like 90s neo noir box sets from Imprint. I think it was either in the first or second one. And this movie is dealing about with like police corruption. It stars Richard Gere and Andy Garcia. We've talked about it before. It says brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of a 35 millimeter original camera negative. That leads me to believe, yes, it is coming out in 4K UHD. So that will be an upgrade over the Imprint release, which was only a Blu-ray. But we don't know if the special features are going to transfer from that one over to this one. So moving on from there, we finally get an announcement for Dark Side of Cinema box set number 20. This is coming out August 27th. They've already planned like a few more after this. So I think we've talked about this before, but quickly, what movies are in here? Yeah, this is the one with Alan, where Alan Ladd is in 2 out of 3 of the films. So we've got Captain Carey USA. We've got Appointment with Danger, and then Make Haste to Live are the 3 films in the Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema box set number 20. These are all from HD Masters by Paramount Pictures from 4K scans. Like I said, Captain Carey USA and I think Appointment with Danger both star Alan Ladd. Yes, they do. Very cool. And we've got I think, an audio commentary on each. Yes. Yes, Serial at Midnight. Heath Holland is doing the commentary for Appointment with Danger. That's pretty cool. So I think that's almost everything from Kino. I thought there was one thing that they didn't put on their Facebook page that I think I saw on Blu-ray.com. Nope, that was Internal Affairs. So we've got that. Now let's move over to Severin. So Severin has their upcoming summer sale. Their summer sale is going to be running from July 12th through the 15th of 2024, and they have been announcing their summer sale titles over the last couple of weeks. They've been announcing, I think they've announced 5 so far, and the first one was a pretty big one. That's the one I really want to spend some effort and some time into, and they are putting out a 5-disc edition of Dario Argento's film Opera. This movie is obviously pretty big in terms of, who made it and what it is. And I know Opera has been put out on Blu-ray before. It's been put out on Blu-ray. Let me see by whom. Yeah, Scorpion Releasing put out a Blu-ray in 2018 here. Let me see if it was put out in the UK or any other place. Yes, it was put out in the UK as well. It was put out in the UK by Cult Films, but not to this extent. This is, like I said, a 5-disc edition. Let me see. Yeah, I believe it's got the first disc here is the UHD disc. It's got the director's cut and the US cut. The second disc has the director's cut and the US cut on Blu-ray plus special features. The first one has special features as well. You've got 1, 2, 3 commentaries for the movie. And then the third disc here is just the director's cut with special features. And then the fourth disc is just a Blu-ray with special features. And then the fifth disc is a CD, which Severin likes to do from time to time. By time to time, I mean, they do that a lot. They do that with a lot of their major releases. So that's pretty cool. And that's the Dario Argento film from, when did, let me look this up because I saw it years ago. I don't own it, but I own a bunch of other Dario Argento films. I have Phenomena, I have Deep Red, I have I can't remember the first one. Bird with the Crystal Plumage? Bird of Crystal Plumage? I never remember the title. But yeah, Dario Argento's opera. A young opera singer is stalked by a deranged fan bent on killing the people associated with her to claim her for himself. Typical Giallo style. There's murder. It's stylized, all that kind of stuff. The movie for me is not bad, but it is a bit style over substance, which is kind of a lot of giallo. You kind of really gotta dig the style to really appreciate it, which I do, which I do. But yeah. So that is Opera from 1987. Very cool from Severin. And then Severin, of course, had some other titles as well. They had a movie called Simple Like Silver. This was their title reveal number two. And this is a movie I did get to watch, and the only way you can kind of watch it is you can either rent it or buy it from Amazon. That was the only way you could really find it. And so I rented it, and it is an interesting avant-garde art house film. It's a movie that is right up my alley in terms of surrealism, existentialism, all of those things. So you've got these three characters who are kind of just going through existential crises. Um, and they're just walking around this town or this area, or I don't even know if they're in the same area. And they just have this inner monologue going. This inner monologue going of just being observational, talking about their lives, talking about what's going on with them, what they're struggling with, what they're going through, and it's just in a monologue the whole time. And there's no plot to the movie, there's no real structure to it. It's kind of an ethereal dream. And it's fascinating how you can just tell a movie like this, say so much without showing and without doing a lot, which is something that's right up my alley when it comes to what I love about cinema. The pure idea of uh, pure cinema being the visual medium form. And this movie is very much like that. It's beautifully shot, beautiful cinematography. The movie only runs 70 minutes long, so it's not that long at all. But it's very powerful yet understated. It's quite a trip. It's quite a trip. And I would recommend it just based off of that. If you like those types of movies, if you like movies that are kind of like the first part of Wings of Desire, for those of you who've never seen Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire, the first part of that movie is just Bruno Ganz as an angel going around and just having this inner monologue and just observing life and observing people and their struggles and their daily lives, having this inner monologue and just being incredibly deep and philosophical, theological, life altering type of stuff. It's some of the most powerful cinema I've ever seen. And this film is channeling that in a much smaller form. So this film is called Simple Like Silver. Definitely recommend it to people. You know what I mean? If you like that type of cinema, that type of art house, avant-garde, surreal cinema. So after this, we got The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals, which I did not get to see, but I think is streaming on Tubi. That is their Severin Summer Sale title reveal number 3. That's a lot. That's a lot to say at one point. Let me go to their number 4 title. Their number 4 title is The Red Light Bandit, which I did get to see. There's actually like not three versions. There's this movie is streaming 3 times on YouTube, but it's in Portuguese with no English subtitles, so it doesn't really help those who aren't fluent in Portuguese. But this is a Brazilian film from the 1960s. And this is a interesting film that was part of the underground cinema marginal movement of Brazilian films in the 50s and 60s. Basically, this is a Brazilian film new wave. So this film feels like Italian neorealism meets French new wave, but it's Brazilian, but it's Portuguese, but it's very much about their culture and society, and that's kind of what this movement was about. Now, this film here is based off of, I believe, a true story, or based off of police reports of a real life bandit who terrorized St. Paulo in the 1960s, and he's known as the Red Light Bandit because he would use a red light and break into people's homes and attack women. And this movie is very unhinged. It's unhinged because you're bouncing around from like the police like investigating and him breaking into homes and other things happening, and it bounces around. It's so unhinged. There's not a real focus in terms of plot. The movie yet is kind of all about this energy feeling and what it's saying about kind of the heightened fright of this whole situation and the unhingedness of it and whatnot. But it's very interesting. So it's called The Red Light Bandit. And it's part of the cinema marginal movement of Brazilian cinema, Brazilian new wave in the 50s and 60s. Fascinating. So that is title number 4. And then title number 5, I believe they just announced today as I scroll up here. Let me see. Scrolling. Ah, yes, here it is. So Don't Change Hands. The North American Blu-ray premiere of Don't Change Hands from iconoclastic French writer slash director Paul Vecchiali, who did the movies The Strangler and Femme Femmes, comes the wickedly perverse thrill that subverts the conventions of film noir by slyly flipping its traditional gender roles. When a prominent politician receives an adult film starring her son, she hires a hard-boiled private detective to track down the blackmailer, but as bodies strip down, corpses pile up, and suspects are never what they seem. Will this climax with the most shocking bang of all? I guess that remains to be seen. But yeah, this is coming with a few special features, some interviews here, some conversations. Once again, Severin does the due diligence when it comes to these things. So that is um, title number 5, Don't Change Hands. So that is Severin. The Severin summer sale will be July 12th through the 15th. That's coming up sooner than you think. Also, for those of you interested, we will be talking about, actually, we're going to talk about it right now. Let's go from Severin to Criterion, because Criterion Barnes & Noble 50% off sale is coming. From what I hear, it will be starting June 28th and rolling through July 28th, so a full month worth of sale goodness. Now that's just what I heard. Maybe it's not definite, but I guess we'll find out come this Friday when I go to my local Barnes & Noble. Hopefully they have things on sale. But that's what I believe is happening. So we got an awesome slate of movies from Criterion. Awesome slate. These are their September releases, so these don't fall within obviously this cycle of the Barnes and Noble sale. It'll fall within the next cycle back in November, whenever that comes. Well, hopefully it does come. But we got some great stuff here. So first up here is Todd Solondz's Happiness, one of the most, I would say, controversial, deranged, messed up movies that you ever will see. This movie, and it doesn't hold back. It's a movie about really messed up people. Dylan Baker plays a character in this film, one of the most despicable characters you've ever seen, and the way Todd Solondz did just unflinchingly portrays these really messed up individuals in this film is pushes film to its limits, in my opinion. Um, yeah, what a movie. So let me click on it here and see what we've got. I thought that this movie was going to get a Severin or a Vinegar Syndrome release because it's that type of movie. Like I thought they were going to do it, and I thought they were going to do it justice by giving it a bunch of special features. Unfortunately, all we really have here is 2 special features. We've got a new conversation between director Todd Solondz and filmmaker Charlotte Wells, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I don't mind that at all. Um, and then also we have here's a new interview with actor Dylan Baker. That's really it. You do get a new 4K digital restoration of the film, supervised by director photographer Maurice Alberti. Um, and that's all you really get. But just to have this movie, and not only Blu-ray, but in 4K, is mind-boggling. I didn't know that this would ever happen. Also, all of these were announced on my birthday, on June 17th, that Monday. So this was like a happy birthday gift to me from Criterion, all of these announcements. Just incredible. That's Happiness by Todd Solondz. I don't even know if I can explain this movie to people. It's a portrait of these bunch of different people going through certain things in their lives. The movie stars Philip Seymour Hoffman, Lara Flynn Boyle, Ben Gazzara's in the film, Dylan Baker's in the film. And it's really a critique of like middle class and like normalcy, or what is considered to be normal but not really normal, pulling back the veil of the quote unquote middle class normalcy. It's a movie. Damn, it's a movie. It's not for the faint of heart, though. I will warn you if you haven't seen it. I know many people probably listening and watching have seen this movie. They probably have it in their collection. It's been stuck on DVD forever, seemingly. But yeah, that's Happiness by Todd Solondz. Wow, what a movie! I know that's going to be a hot seller for people. Next up is something I wasn't expecting, but pleasantly surprised. We have Gregg Araki's Teen Apocalypse trilogy. Now, I thought we were going to get this when Gregg Araki did a visit to the Criterion Closet a while ago. I thought that's why he was there, to kind of, in preparation or to work on his movies getting Criterion releases. But then I saw that his movies were getting released by another company. I saw Doom Generation and Nowhere getting released by another company. The company was called Strand Releasing, and we talked about them when they were announced. And we talked about them on here and how excited I was for them. I've had Doom Generation in and out of my car on Orbit DVD so many times. I wanted to buy Doom Generation because it's a really good movie. I wanted to buy that. I wanted to buy Nowhere. I wanted his earlier movie to get released as well. But that didn't happen. But now it has. So I can get this box set and kind of forego getting the Blu-rays from Strand Releasing. Although the Blu-ray of Doom Generation from Strand Releasing has an exclusive commentary. So if you want everything, you need to get that release, or if you have that release already, you may want to hold on to it because it has an exclusive commentary that this Criterion release does not have. But the movies in the set are totally effed up, Doom Generation and Nowhere. And what you get here is Gregg Araki's portrait of teenage life in the 90s. And it's dark and it's gloomy, it's existential, it's three really interesting, different, diverse films, challenging films. Gregg Araki really doesn't, pull his punches. He's very forthright. He's very gripping director. Yeah, he was part of the new queer cinema of the 90s, late 80s and 90s. So that is an element in his films and in these films as well. So yeah, it's got everything that I'm fascinated in, just absolutely utterly fascinated in. Let me see what we got here for special features. So new 2K digital restoration of Totally Effed Up, and new 4K digital restoration of the Doom Generation and Nowhere. This is a 4K Blu-ray combination pack, a 3-disc combination pack, or just the Blu-ray itself. You got a new conversation between director Gregg Araki and filmmaker Richard Linklater. That sells me instantly. Instantly, I want it. Instantly. New commentary on Nowhere with Araki and actors James Duval, Rachel True, Nathan Bexton, Jordan Ladd, Sarah Lassay, Guillermo Diaz, and Jason Simmons. Audio commentary on Totally Effed Up with Gregg Araki, Duval, and actor Gilbert Luna. New documentary on the trilogy's visual style featuring Araki, Duval, producer Andrea Sperling, cinematographer Jim Feely, costume designers Kathy Cooper and Sarah Jane Slotnick, production designer Patty Podesta, art director Michael Krantz, and hair and makeup artist Jason Rail. James Duval's Teen Apocalypse Archive, a new conversation between Araki and Duval. Q&As with Araki, moderated by filmmakers Gus Van Sant and Andrew Ahn. And then Doom Generation video comic book. This just shot up to the top of my list of release I've got to get for the rest of the year. Like high priority. Like I may not wait for the November Criterion sale. Like I need this box set in my life. Yes. Let me check out some comments here. Cannot wait for Happiness. That's from Tony. Cannot wait for Happiness. That was the announcement of the month. Yeah, it is the surprise announcement of the month. Like I said, it's like I'm still shocked by it. I'm still like, wow. Just when you think Criterion, would be playing it safe or plays it safe. No, not at all. Not at all. They are here to play with Happiness. And then we've got another one here by Tony. Criterion must release Mysterious Skin next from Araki, his masterpiece. Mysterious Skin, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is a heavy movie. It is a heavy movie, man. It's I think about that movie and its weight just like knocks me over. Just knocks me over. Yeah, I would love if they would do that. I know there was a Mysterious Skin Blu-ray from a few years ago. Let me check who put it out. Um, I n- I've thought about getting it many many times. It came out in 2014. It came out from Strand Releasing. Okay, so Strand Releasing. It is now out of print. Okay, okay, all right. It's now out of print, or at least it's out of print on Amazon, at least Amazon US. So that would lead me to believe there's a re-release on the horizon from somewhere, perhaps. Um, who knows? Who really knows? But I would love for that to happen as well, Tony. I would love that to happen. Um, but yeah, so that is this great, great box set from Criterion. Gregg Araki's Teen Apocalypse trilogy. Incredible. And then next up here is a movie that we've already talked about on here because it just got a release from Arrow. It got a release from Arrow. Um, it got a release from Arrow just what last month? This month? I know because I almost bought it for my birthday. I almost bought The Long Good Friday, the movie directed by John McKenzie, the movie starring the late great Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren. I said Hopkins. It's Hoskins and Helen Mirren. Um, and this movie, like I said, just got an Arrow 4K release, and I almost bought it. But I'm holding off because I want to get this release. The reason being is this has been in the Criterion Collection for a while. This has been in the Criterion Collection since I think it's number like 24. Why is it not? Oh no, number 26. Sorry, number 26. So that's an early number. Those things kind of get me. Having the early number criterions, those kind of get me. But there is a difference between this release and the Arrow release. I'm assuming they're going to be similar in terms of video quality, but they may be different in other ways. I did look it up earlier, so I got to go back to my post. I got to go back to my post on Facebook that I made. There we go. Um, checking it out. Yeah, so just doing a quick comparison, it seems that the Criterion is missing a Q&A with Hoskins and the director and some interviews with various crew members, but the Criterion does have an intro by the curator of Criterion, as well as an extra documentary. That's the big difference. So you're missing some interviews and a Q&A with Bob Hoskins, but you're getting an intro from the curator at Criterion, as well as an extra documentary. So that's kind of the big piece for me. And the extra documentary is I think it's an accidental studio documentary about the early years of handmade films. That I don't think is on the Arrow release. Um, but you do get everything else. So it's a new 4K digital restoration approved by the director of photography, Phil Mayhew. And then I think it's two Blu-rays and one 4K disc, so a 3-disc set. You get an audio commentary with the director, John McKenzie. Like I said, that documentary, An Accidental Studio. Introduction by the Criterion Collection curator. Documentary about the making of the film. Interviews with Mayhew and screenwriter Barry Keefe. Program comparing the soundtracks for the UK and US releases. This is a great film. It's Bob Hoskins as a British gangster, and then like his gangster mall is Helen Mirren. This is the early 80s. The soundtrack for this movie is awesome. I can't recommend this movie enough. And I know that Arrow had it out on Blu-ray several years ago. They put out a Steelbook Blu-ray of it as well, which I know was a hot seller at the time. So they upgraded theirs, and Criterion, I guess, is upgraded. I want to say from their DVD release because they never released the Blu-ray. But yeah, so this is really really cool. I can't wait to get this. But next we have a modern film, and I'm glad that this is getting a release. All of Us Strangers by Andrew Haig. This is one of the best movies I saw from 2023. Incredible film starring Andrew Scott as well as Paul Mescal. Jamie Bell's in the film. Claire Foy is in the film, I believe, as well. It is a deeply, deeply existential, personal film about Andrew Scott's character who is going through some things and some issues, dealing with his past family life and past family situation, dealing with his modern sense of identity and whatnot. Paul Mescal is beautiful and brilliant in this movie. This movie is stunning work. Stunning work. And I know Disney had just announced the Blu-ray coming out in the UK, so I wasn't sure what we were going to get here for the movie, but I'm glad Criterion is putting it out. Super glad. So this is a 4K UHD release. It's a new conversation between director Andrew Haig and author and critic Michael Koreski. New interview with cinematographer Jamie D. Ramsey, behind the scenes documentary and featurettes. And you get a trailer and there's an essay in here as well. But All of Us Strangers. I believe it's streaming now, at least here in the US. It was streaming on Hulu. I don't know if it still is, but if it is streaming, if it's available to stream, check this movie out. It's really powerful, powerful film. And lastly, here is a 4K UHD upgrade of a movie I have on Blu-ray. It is Alex Cox's Repo Man. I got it right here next to me. So this Blu-ray is now being upgraded to 4K. This movie came out in 1984, directed by Alex Cox. This is a fun movie. This movie stars, I believe, who's in this movie? Why is his name completely Emilio Estevez. Emilio Estevez is in the movie in an early role, but also Harry Dean Stanton is in the film as well. Let me make sure I'm not just completely blanking on things. Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, Emilio Estevez. What a brilliant cult film this is. Just a brilliant cult film. So a young punk recruited by a car repo agency finds himself in pursuit of a Chevrolet Malibu with a huge $20,000 bounty and something otherworldly stashed in its trunk. And this cover here is kind of a spoiler of what happens when you open the trunk. Yes, just answering a question here. Yes, Humboldt Horror Honey. I believe it is All of Us Strangers is on Hulu. That's where I watched it actually. So it's been streaming. It was streaming there late last year, earlier this year. I should probably check. I could check for you right now if it's streaming. Because I feel like that's important. I think it's an important film to watch. I think it's a movie that's going to be talked about for years. Like I think it's that good of a movie where people are going to go back and watch it. Yes, it is streaming on Hulu. It is rentable on Apple TV Plus. It's rentable on Amazon. But if you have Hulu, just watch it there streaming. But I definitely want to get this at some point. It is coming out in September, so that's something definitely to get towards the holiday season or even when it comes out. But back to Repo Man. Let me go back to Repo Man. So awesome cult movie. I bought this as soon as this edition came out. I bought this. I love the cover art. This was also a digipack release. Great cover art here. I hope this carries over. I hope they use the same exact art for this. Here's the inner artwork as well. Look, this is amazing. Here's the artwork on the booklet here as well. Really great release. Really, just one of the better Criterion releases I think you can add to your collection. It's a great blind buy for those of you who haven't seen it. I think it's a great blind buy as well. But that's Repo Man by Alex Cox, and I know they just put out Walker a little while ago. So if you want to get a little Alex Cox Criterion, section going, you can. Did they put out Sid and Nancy as well? They did put out Sid and Nancy. I have the regular Blu-ray of Sid and Nancy, the Alex Cox film. I've got to get the Blu-ray. That's another really good film. That stars Gary Oldman and Chloe Webb. It's about Sid Vicious. Good film. But let's see, is that it for Criterion? I believe it is. Yeah, we got Happiness. We got the Gregg Araki box set. We've got the Long Good Friday, All of Us Strangers, and the 4K UHD upgrade of Repo Man. Awesome. That was the highlight of my birthday. One of the highlights of my birthday, really. I was like, damn, they really did me right. They really did me right, Criterion. But let's move over across the seas let's move over to Indicator Powerhouse. Let's see what they got cooking because they did me well as well because they put out another one of these slates that are all movies that are in my wheelhouse of things I love, and that is classic Hollywood and the golden age of Hollywood. So they put out 4 movies, or they're going to put out 4 movies, and I believe this is their. When is this coming out? This is coming out September. This is coming out September. So you've got You and Me, When Tomorrow Comes, You'll Never Get Rich, and The Lady is Willing. Now, luckily for me, I believe I had seen 3 out of 4 of these already, and all I had to do was watch The Lady is Willing. But we will go in order here. So You and Me, starring Sylvia Sidney and George Raft, directed by and produced by Fritz Lang. That gets me in the door already. Came out in 1938. When an ex-convict, Joe, portrayed by George Raft, gets a job in a department store, he falls in love with his co-worker, Helen. And even though the rules of their employment were strictly forbidden, the two secretly are married. However, when he discovers that Helen has been hiding the fact that she is also an ex-con, Joe becomes enraged and decides to rob the store, putting their relationship in jeopardy. So I have seen this before. Because I think that Kino had put this out. Yes, Kino had put this out in 2023, in April of 2023, and I think we talked about it here on the podcast at the time. And I believe it got a 2K restoration, and I think the main difference between this release and the Indicator release is that the Indicator release has more special features. Unfortunately, I've got to go to Kino's website to look that up. I believe because typically Kino's releases have exclusive commentaries that don't transfer over to the Indicator releases. Because I know there have been a few like Kat Ellinger commentaries that have been on Kino releases that don't make them over to other releases in other areas. So there's a new audio commentary by film critic and author Simon Abrams. That's on the Kino release. Now on the Indicator release, you have an audio commentary with writer and film programmer Tony Raines. So that's not on the Kino, and the Kino is not on this one. But with the Kino release, you get a bunch of new special features. You get Lucy Bolton on Sylvia Sidney. The academic discusses the life and lengthy film career of stage and screen actor. David Huckvale on Kurt Weill. The author and musicologist discusses the film's unique musical score. You got image gallery, and I believe you get a booklet as well, like you always do. There's a booklet with a new essay by Farron Smith Name, an archival interview with Fritz Lang conducted by Peter Bogdanovich. I think that's in the Peter Bogdanovich book that I have. But that's included in here as well. This is really awesome. So that's You and Me, and the movie's good. The movie is very good. You know, it's got that conflict at the center of it. These two people having this secret relationship where there's more going on there than meets the eye. Really good film. Sylvia Sidney, George Raft, You and Me. Good film. And the next is When Tomorrow Comes. Now, When Tomorrow Comes also has a Kino release. I know because I've almost bought it many times, and it's always included in the Kino sales. This is directed by John M. Stahl, and it came out in 1939. And this has a audio commentary by film historian Lee Gambin, the late great Lee Gambin, and costume historian Alyssa Rose. So that's on the Kino release. Now, if you're a fan of Lee Gambin and you're a fan of his work and you want to honor him and you want to buy the Kino and buy the Indicator, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. That's probably what I'm going to do. But the Indicator release does not have the Lee Gambin commentary. It's got an audio commentary with academic and curator Eloise Ross. It's got Jeff Andrew on When Tomorrow Comes. The writer and critic assesses the film and places it within the career of director John M. Stahl. The Mark of Cain, it's a video essay. When Tomorrow Comes, comparing When Tomorrow Comes to Douglas Sirk's 1957 adaptation of the same. James M. Cain's short story, and the image gallery, and then it's got a booklet here as well. So that is When Tomorrow Comes. Now, When Tomorrow Comes, I believe, is Following the runaway success of Love Affair, Irene Dunn and Charles Boyer were reunited for When Tomorrow Comes. Despite differences of class and politics, concert pianist Philip Boyer falls in love with waitress Helen, portrayed by Irene Dunn, and they embark on a torrid romance. However, Helen soon finds that Philip is hiding something from her. Um, yeah, I believe I talked about this movie extensively when Kino released it. Um, they have this whirlwind romance, like this one night whirlwind romance, but there's more to the story than that. Like I think Charles Boyer's got some secret that he's hiding, or something that he's hiding that may put a snag in their whole love affair and whatnot. But good film, really good film. John M. Stahl's a really good director. Highly recommend it. Now, next is a movie that I already own, but damn it, I'm probably gonna buy it again. And that is You'll Never Get Rich, starring Fred Astaire, Rita Hayworth. It's because it's starring Rita Hayworth, one of my all-time favorites. Um, it's a film directed by Sidney Landfield from 1941. It's a musical. It's a dance film. It's Rita Hayworth on screen. This movie has gotten a few releases. Um, this movie has gotten a Blu-ray release here by both. Actually, it's kind of hold on. It's gotten one from Twilight Time, which has been out of print. Came out in 2017. It's got one that's put out by Mill Creek in their Rita Hayworth collection box set. And it's got one that just came out in April, literally just came out in April, put out directly by Sony Pictures. So this is a Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures film, and they have it in their archives. So they've shared this movie around a few times, and I've owned it, like I said, in the Rita Hayworth box set. Unfortunately, the Mill Creek box set for Rita Hayworth stuff, the movies don't look great, but I got a bunch of Rita Hayworth movies for very cheap, which is what I wanted. If I have to rebuy them for quality purposes, for extra features, I will, because I love Rita Hayworth that much. But You'll Never Get Rich I definitely want this release. Um, um, I think the the um the original Twilight Time release had no special features other than isolated music and effects track. I don't know. I'm not sure what the Sony Pictures release has, um, because it doesn't. Let's see. It doesn't say. You never get rich. Yeah, it doesn't say. Let me check the forums on Blu-ray.com really quickly, see if they say anything. Probably nope. Nope. That was the wrong forum. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, it really doesn't say. Oh, special features, commentary by film historian Stephen C. Smith. That was on the Sony Pictures one. And let's see, the commentary on here is by film historian Peter Tunget. So, if you really want everything, you want to be complete, you got to get the Sony Pictures Blu-ray that just came out and get this one as well, because this one has a bunch of special features on it. It's got not only that commentary, it's got Christina Newland on Rita Hayworth, it's got Fred Astaire's approach to filmmaking, an archival audio recording of a lecture delivered by John Muller, author of Astaire Dancing, the films of Fred Astaire at the National Film Theatre in London. Got a Super 8 version, a cut down home cinema presentation. It's got a booklet as well. Yeah, I kind of want this movie now, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, this movie is great. I love this movie so much. When womanizing impresario Martin, Robert Benchley from Foreign Correspondent, tasks choreographer Robert, Fred Astaire, with helping him woo headstrong dancer Sheila, a series of comic misunderstandings involving Martin's wife and Sheila's fiance results in Robert running away to join the army for his own safety. So what happens in this movie is that the guy Martin, portrayed by Robert Benchley, is he kind of routinely cheats on his wife, and I think he's trying to do that again. But in order for him not to get, I think he gets caught. He gets caught in a situation where I think he buys a gift, and his wife finds it, and she thinks it's, and he's got to like play it off that he bought that he was holding it for a friend who bought it for somebody else, and then so he has to rope in this friend to play along with him in this whole ruse. It's really great. didn't really didn't really sell it well. Um, this synopsis that you'll never get rich. Let's see, you'll never get rich. I'm looking for it on Letterboxd right now, just so that I can give a better synopsis of it here, because it's been a few years since I've seen it. Yeah, that's not it as well. Wow, this is a really bad synopsis here. Really bad synopsis. Um, Let me try IMDb now. You'll never get rich from 1941. Here we go. In order to cover up his philandering ways, a married Broadway producer sets one of his dancers up on a date with a chorus girl, for whom he had bought a gift, but the two dancers fall in love for real. That's a better synopsis. That's a more accurate synopsis of this movie. That's what I was trying to say. Um, yeah, I love this movie. I'm going to buy this. Um, but let's see. So let me scroll back to the next film. So we've covered those three, and then we get to The Lady is Willing, starring Marlena Dietrich and Fred McMurray. And what you get here is a very interesting movie about a, people who get married for uh like business reasons, not even business reasons, but like personal and business reasons. So this is directed by Mitchell Leisen, and I believe there is a hold on, let me check. Um, the lady is willing. Let me check to make sure there's another release from this. The lady is willing. So the lady is willing does not have a US or region A release at all. Um, so we will go over to what I was just saying. Yeah. So um, eccentric Broadway star Lisa Madden, Marlena Dietrich, longs to become a mother but has no need for a husband. When she stumbles across an abandoned baby, she resolves to adopt it, entering into a marriage of convenience with child-hating, rabbit-obsessed divorcee Dr. McBain, portrayed by Fred McMurray. So what happens in this movie is Marlena Dietrich is kind of walking along and just finds a baby that's been abandoned and just like picks it up and takes it. And she decides that this baby's now mine. I'm going to adopt it, and it's mine now. But I don't want a husband. I have no need for a husband. But if you've ever been through the adoption process, you kind of they won't really let you adopt someone if you're like a single parent or something like that. There's all kind of stipulations and things like that to make you a good candidate for adoption and whatnot. So she decides that she needs to find someone to marry and to do it right away before the authorities take away this baby. And she ends up kind of roping in this Fred McMurray character, who's this baby doctor who doesn't like babies, mind you, and and she's like, you know what, we'll get married, we can adopt this baby, you can do your own thing in your own section area of this large apartment, I can do my thing over here, and we'll just be this married couple. It's a marriage of convenience. But of course what happens, as it always does, they end up like kind of falling for one another and whatnot, and there's this cat and mouse game back and forth flirtation and whatnot. But some things get in the way and they've got to overcome them. It's the usual thing. But it's Fred McMurray, it's Marlena Dietrich. They're amazing on screen. They're great, great actors. I love Marlena Dietrich. So I will be buying this movie. No matter what, it's a lovely, like, light kind of romantic film. You know what I mean? A little comedy thrown in there as well. So that is The Lady is Willing. So that's the forefront indicator. You and Me, When Tomorrow Comes, You'll Never Get Rich, and The Lady is Willing. All movies that I want in my collection. These are all movies that are in my wheelhouse of the part of cinema that I love and that I keep going back to, the classic, the 30s and the 40s, things like that. So thank you, indicator, for that. So moving right along, let's move over to Umbrella. So we're going down to Australia and we're going to check out Umbrella's releases. So Umbrella has their, what month are they in now? Of course, it doesn't say. Why wouldn't it tell me? October. They're already in October. So they are putting out a 4K Blu-ray of Caligula. And I know we talked about it before on the last episode because another company is putting out a release of Caligula. They're putting out their own 4K release. So Caligula is getting a 4K release here in September from Draft House Films, and then Umbrella's putting out theirs in October. And Umbrella's release has 2 discs. It's got a bunch of new special features, new audio commentaries, new other things cooking in here. It's got Q&As with like Malcolm McDowell and things. It's got video essays. Really awesome stuff. So if you don't want to get the US release and you want to get the one from Umbrella, you can. I would definitely compare the two to see who's got what. They're both really stacked releases. I can say that. They're both really stacked. So that is Caligula. I don't think I need to explain what that movie's all about. It's about the Roman Emperor Caligula and all the stuff he was into and up to and whatnot. So we've got that, and then yeah, hold on, let me see. Caligula 4K. Yep. So the 4K has 3 discs and the Blu-ray's got 2 discs. That's what it looks like. Thesis. So Thesis is a movie that's also getting a 4K release. Angela, a film student, is working on her thesis about audio-visual violence. When researching, she discovers a hidden tape that appears to be a real snuff film depicting the brutal murder of a young woman. Intrigued and horrified, Angela teams up with Chema, a fellow student with a penchant for horror films and the macabre, to investigate the origins of the tape. As they delve deeper, the investigation quickly turns perilous as the pair find themselves entangled in a dangerous web of secrecy and murder, putting their lives at risk as they get closer to the truth. So, the movie reminded me a lot of the movie 8mm starring Nicolas Cage, or even the movie Hardcore starring George C. Scott, the Paul Schrader film, because you're dealing with that kind of seedy underbelly world of the snuff film industry, if you will, or movies of that ilk, movies that are, in the underground seedy world, you know what I mean? And this movie dives into that on a much smaller scale than those films did, but still as disturbing and as, really get you. You know what I mean? So you've got this woman who's doing this thesis who kind of just gets in over her head. It's the kind of the Alfred Hitchcock type of situation, the North by Northwest, somebody who is just doing something and then gets roped into something way bigger than they ever expected it to be and puts themselves in danger. And that's what this movie's about. It's called Thesis. It's got an audio commentary by critic Alexandra Heller Nicholas, our friend here on Chasing Labels, who we got to interview. This is directed by Alejandro Amenabar. Alejandro Amenabar directed The Others, which of course just got a Criterion Blu-ray release. So that's really cool. And then, yeah, it's coming out, I think, on Blu-ray and 4K. Yeah, so these also all come with collector's editions as well. So you can get them with just by themselves, or you can get them with like a 48-page book and like rigid hard-boxed out cases and slip cases and lobby cards and all that kind of stuff. That's what typically Umbrella does. So we've got the movie Intruder. So, from debut for both director Scott Spiegel and producer Lawrence Bender, and featuring Ted and Sam Raimi. Yes, they are in the movie. Hold on for a second. So I immediately noticed Ted Raimi, and so this movie does have ties to the Evil Dead franchise. It's not an Evil Dead movie. It's not anything like that, but the Raimis are part of it. And basically, this is a slasher movie that takes place at a supermarket. A grocery store night shift should be pretty easy. A handful of customers, shelving new stock, maybe even time for some fooling around. But tonight is different. Somebody else is stalking the store, and they are out for blood, and the body count keeps growing. Basically, that's what happens. An overnight crew at a grocery store start getting killed off one by one, and we have to find out who is it and why they're doing it. This has a bunch of new features. It's got a new audio commentary with director Scott Spiegel. It's got a video essay by Kat Ellinger. It's got its new Intruder trailer, newly edited by Scott Spiegel, The Blind Waiter short film from 1980, Toro, a Redux short film from 1981, It's got a new Cleveland Smith bounty hunter producers cut short film from 1982, original intruder work print, outtakes from Night Crew 1979, extended murder sequence from Night Crew slash intruder work print, original trailer, original intruder trailer, Attack of the Helping Hand, another short film from 1979. This is a stacked release. This is a stacked release. And then you get a collector's edition that comes with like a 48-page book, some art cards, all the extra goodies there. Very cool. It's exactly what you expect. It's a like a late 80s slasher film with really good gore effects. Like really good gore effects for the time. Some really interesting kills, as you can imagine, what one can do in a grocery store. So moving along from there, we have The Isle. What a haunting movie. The Isle. It's an early film from director Kim Ki-duk. Renowned for its striking visuals and provocative narrative, The Isle explores loneliness, desperation, and the human capacity for both cruelty and compassion, all while maintaining a tense and unsettling atmosphere. That sums up this movie perfectly. So, the mysterious Hyun Shuk arrives at a rural fishing resort. Renting a tiny floating cabin from the silent Heejin, he spends his time in quiet contemplation, watching the other men fishing and day-to-day events unfold. But Hyun Shuk isn't the only person watching, and in between her boat trips to supply necessities, fishing bait, coffee, and adult workers, and adult sex workers to the holiday fishermen in each floating cabin, Heejin is also watching life on the lake as well as the activities of her new guests. What unfolds is a haunting story of secrets, lusts, desires, and dangerous obsessions, all set against the backdrop of the beautiful haunted landscape. Yeah, this movie all takes place in one location on this large lake, and what is on this lake are these like floating little tent huts. And the only way you can get to these and the only way you can get things to these little floating tent huts is this woman who runs this little, you know, resort as they call it. And she has this boat, so she takes people out to there, she takes people off of there. She provides like supplies and things to them. She provides, I guess the local sex working population gets a lot of business there as well. So she supplies all of that until she kind of falls for one of these mysterious lonely guys who's kind of just hiding out there. This film has very minimal dialogue in it. It's all really done with a lot of emotive acting, a lot of like looks and feels and emotions, haunting cinematography, haunting emotions. Pretty there's some gruesome graphicness of the film as well. There's some sequences of violence that are rather realistic to the point where it makes them disturbing. And I know a lot of that was brought up when the film first came out. I was reading that online. People were very disturbed by it, and I can understand because of the realness of the situation. I won't get into the context of it. Let's just say it's graphic, and like this could happen in real life, and probably has. That's what makes it so real and so shocking and so haunting and so horrific. Uh, but really a beautiful film. It's got audio commentary by with Pierce Conrad and James Marsh, video essay by critic and writer Nadine Whitney, making of the Isle featurette, making the soundtrack featurette Kim Ki-duk, his films and the Isle, Kim Seung Jae on Ki-duk. Boy, I am all over the place. Interviews with cast and crew, and then you get, of course, the collector's edition with the book and all that extra stuff. And then next we have Triangle. Holy heck! So Triangle. This is a psychological mind f of a movie, man. This movie will play with your brain. You may figure it out early on, but still the journey's worth it. The journey is worth it. So from director Christopher Smith, who directed Severance and Creep, Triangle is a gripping psychological thriller that defies expectation with its mind-bending plot and eerie atmosphere. Prepare for a haunting journey into the unknown that will keep you guessing until the very end. Triangle. Here we go. When Melissa George, portrayed by, sets sail on a yacht with a group of friends. She cannot shake the feeling that there is something wrong. Her suspicions are realized when the yacht hits a storm in the Bermuda Triangle, and the group is forced to board a passing ocean liner to get to safety. The ship appears deserted, but just as convinced she's been on board before, they soon realize they are not alone. Someone is intent on hunting them down one by one. That's only the tip of the iceberg of this movie. That is the very basic surface level plot. There's so much more going on in it, but I won't say a thing. Go into this movie as blind as you can, as knowing as little as possible as you can, and you may be pleasantly surprised by what you get. Um, yeah, I really like this movie, and this edition is loaded with features. 2 audio commentaries, um, one by with producer Chris Brown, moderated by Shane Armstrong. There's a commentary by the director of photography Robert Humphries and producer designer Melinda Doring. Four-sided triangle, an interview with writer slash director Christopher Smith. Ghost Ship, an interview with producer Julie Baines. Phantoms at Sea, a video essay on nautical horror by Alexandra Heller Nicholas. Once again, she shows up. Behind the scenes gallery, storyboards gallery, set build gallery, audio commentary with director Christopher Smith. Making of the Triangle, deleted scenes, the Storm special effects featurette. Yeah, it has the special collector's edition as well. But damn, what a good release slate from Umbrella, and they decided to end it here with a 4-film box set. So this is the Hell House LLC collection 1 through 4 collector's edition. So we've got 4 films, like I said. We've got Hell House LLC. Hold on, there's some. Before I get into this, there is some comments here from Film Nut. I gotta say, Caligula is the highlight from Umbrella, but all in all, a great month from them. Yeah, I totally agree, Tony. Totally agree. I'm very impressed by this slate. It's not like top heavy; it's very evenly spread throughout. It's really, really good. Caligula, I know a lot of people already pre-ordered their special editions, which I can't wait to see people get those in to see how they look. But yeah, I'm excited for a bunch of the things that are happening in this slate. And back to Hell House LLC. So you get Hell House LLC, Hell House 2 Abaddon Hotel, Hell House LLC 3 Lake of Fire, then Hell House LLC Origins Carmichael Manor, which I think is a spin-off. So what is this all about? So Hell House LLC and its sequel form a remarkable addition to the found footage horror exploring not just the verite nature of the genre, but using other forms of documentary filmmaking styles too, creating a quartet of films that drag the mockumentary genre in unexpected and terrifying directions. Together, these 4 titles form a unique, unsettling series of films. Yeah, I've only ever seen the first one. So I only saw the first one. All 4 of these are streaming on Shudder. You can watch them there if you have Shudder. So that's where I watched the first one, and it is exactly what it says. It's a documentary horror. It's a found footage horror, so it's very much within that genre. If you've seen the Sarah Appleton documentary about found footage, you understand the found footage genre and kind of how big it became in the 2000s and 2010s. It seemed like everyone was doing them. It's not bad. It's not the first film was not bad. Very creepy, very slow movie, very gradual sense of horror, where like little things happen at a time, until you get a third act, explosion of like, holy heck, what's going on here? You know what I mean? That's the only thing I can say about it, is really commenting on the first film. But each film is getting a bunch of special features. Each film is getting a commentary, a video essay as well. The commentary is with the director on each film. And I think it's been the same director for every single film. The last film, actually, hold on here. Hell House LLC 3 has a video essay by Kat Ellinger, and Hell House LLC Origins has a video essay by Kat Ellinger as well. Very cool. Very, very cool. And the special edition of this comes with a 100-page hardback book. That's pretty impressive. Whereas content written by Alexandra Helen Nicholas, and an exclusive Q&A with the director as well. Um, yeah, that's looks like a gargantuan box set. These are all coming out October 9th, by the way. So early October stuff. And these all fit within like that Halloween vibe. You know what I mean? They're all dealing with horror on a different level. Even Caligula is kind of horrific. For it's just like, but horrific in the sense like, wow, I can't believe what I'm watching. Like that level of horrific. You know what I mean? Like really pushing the envelope of cinema. That level of horror. But the other ones are more, more horror based. But yeah, that is Umbrella. So let's move on to. Let me clear up some of these tabs first, so I don't end up running into things. So let's go to Imprint. Why not? We're in Australia. We might as well stay in Australia. We've got friends down there. We're hanging out with friends in Australia. Why not? So Imprint has a hard box, or a box set month. Well, I would say more hard box month. I guess you could call it. So this is their September releases. These are all coming out September 25th. Well, we've got two like deluxe hard box editions plus a box set. So the two individual hard box editions, we've got Capricorn One and we've got Voyage of the Damned. And then the box set is Tales of Adventure Collection number 4. So Capricorn One is a movie that I had heard about for many, many years. Capricorn One is directed by someone we bring up on the podcast more than I think I ever envisioned we would, or I would, and that is Peter Hyams. Peter Hyams, once again, making an appearance on the podcast. Congratulations, Peter Hyams. I would love to get you as a guest here on the podcast. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. But Peter Hyams, he's the director of such films as 2010, the year we made contact, Time Cop. He was a director of The Relic. I believe he was also a director of the movie I bring up all the time, and that is End of Days, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. I famously tell Steven this every single time. End of Days is Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting the devil in the end of the world. I mean, you can't sell a movie harder than that. You really can't. He also directed The Musketeer, Sudden Death, Time Cop, like I mentioned, Narrow Margin, which is really good. The Presidio, which needs a Blu-ray release. The Presidio does not have a Blu-ray release and needs it. Running Scared has a Blu-ray release from Kino, which I got to get my hands on. And Outland, super underrated movie with Sean Connery from the 80s, sci-fi. Check it out if you have. There's a Blu-ray of it. But we are talking about Capricorn One, another sci-fi-esque type of movie, but 70s style. So when the first manned flight to Mars is deemed unsafe and scrubbed on the launch pad, anxious authorities must scramble to save face and retain their funding, so an unthinkable plot to fake the mission is hatched. So what happens is NASA, or I don't even think they call it NASA, but whatever, they're about to launch a manned mission to Mars. But something happens where it's not gonna be able to happen. So they decided they're gonna fake do it so that they don't ruin their reputation. It's not an embarrassment, and they don't lose government funding for having just a failed mission. And so they take these three astronauts, and these three astronauts are portrayed by James Brolin, Sam Waterston, and O.J. Simpson. And I think the director of like this NASA organization is Hal Holbrook. Um, and so these three astronauts basically get whisked away to kind of like this satellite black site and kind of like hidden away, so that the world thinks that they're in space, but they're not. But what happens is upon re-entry, where the astronauts are gonna like basically fake walk out of a the aircraft, and then everybody's gonna be like, oh, they're back, all this kind of stuff. Well, the aircraft blows up on re-entry, so now you've got these three astronauts who've got to be eliminated. But they realize that that's going to happen, and they try to escape. That's the plot of the movie. interestingly contemporary, I think. This idea of public perception, of selling a lie just to save face, to avoid embarrassment, to sell something that to the public that for them to believe it's real so you can reap the benefits of it. You know what I mean? To manipulate people, whether it be on a government or political level or a cultural level, or whether it be something like a social media level in modern times. I find that to be kind of a fascinating concept. And this movie plays with that in a very literal way in the 70s. Where we don't have social media, internet didn't exist, communication was limited to like to phones and stuff. Um, Fascinating stuff, fascinating film. I really like the movie. It's also there's some great moments in the movie. A great uh, plane chase sequence in the third act is fantastic. Elliot Gould plays this reporter journalist who kind of picks up on this and starts digging deeper into what is going on and trying to uncover it himself. But his life is put in danger. So it's like government cover up type of stuff as well. Telly Savalas is in the movie in one sequence at the end, and he's amazing in it. Yeah, I dig this movie a lot. I really liked it. I've heard about it for years and I never saw it. It did get a Blu-ray release years ago by Timeless Media Group in 2015. And you may be wondering, who the heck is Timeless Media Group? I've never heard of them before. Well, they're a subsidiary of Shout Studios. Shout acquired them back in, I think, 2012, 2013. So they're a subsidiary of Shout Studios. So what they have, Shout Studios just absorbed into their fold, into their catalog and stuff. So that Blu-ray is still available. It is still in print, but this one from Imprint it's got the special features. You know what I mean? It's got special features you want. It's got a new audio commentary with film historian / filmmaker Daniel Kramer and screenwriter Daniel Waters on the extended cut. A new interview with actor Elliot Gould. Flights of the Fancy, the Politics and Paranoia, Capricorn One. What If, the Making of Capricorn One vintage featurette. On set with Capricorn One, vintage location footage, and then Elliot Gould remembers Karen Black from 2013. There may be more coming. So that is Capricorn One. The next you have Voyage of the Damned. Voyage of the Damned is a movie that does not get a lot of love on Letterboxd that I noticed, and I kind of understand why. Based on a true story, directed by Stuart Rosenberg. Stuart Rosenberg directed Cool Hand Luke. He directed The Drowning Pool with Paul Newman. He's a really good director. But Voyage of the Damned kind of takes the premise of like the 1970s disaster movie and kind of combines it with a real life tragedy, and it doesn't quite work. And the way I'm saying that is because okay, so the premise of the movie is the tragic 1939 voyage of the SS St. Louis, carrying hundreds of German Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany that seemingly no nation is willing to save from certain doom. So the true story is this boat called the SS St. Louis that's from Germany that was taking Jewish immigrants trying to escape Nazi Germany, taking them out of Germany. But and they were supposed to land in Havana, Cuba. But the visas that were made for these people were all faked by the German government to make it look as if, oh, nobody wants to take any of these refugees into their country, therefore justifying their actions towards them, or making them look like less human to the world. Huge Nazi terrible propaganda scheme that they cooked up. Atrocious beyond words, obviously. But the worst part about it is that no other country would take them in either. They went to the United States, they wouldn't take them in. They went to Canada, they wouldn't take them in. Eventually, you can read up on this. This is a spoiler. Eventually, Holland and Belgium took them in, but a lot of the people still ended up dying in the end of it all. Really, a harrowing, sad, tragic story. The issue with the movie is the movie really doesn't take that too seriously. Doesn't take it as serious enough. They touch upon these things, but mostly the movie is just a showcase of all of the stars they can get in it. There's so many stars in this movie that it's overwhelming and kind of distracts you from like what the actual point and purpose of the movie is. So for stars, like so many. Faye Dunaway is one of them. Orson Welles shows up at one point. Um, uh, Max von Sydow is the captain of the ship. Uh, let's see who else is in the movie. Um, Malcolm McDowell. Um, let's see, Julie Harris. Jonathan, a very young Jonathan Price is in the film. Like I said, Malcolm McDowell. Um, let's see, Ian Cullen. Uh, James Mason at one point is in the movie. Jose Ferrer, Ben Gazzara. Uh, there's so many more stars in this movie, and it's kind of just a movie just to showcase stars and how many you can put on a boat together, how many you can put in the movie, and the movie is trying to put so much plot into this movie that it almost feels like this stuff would be handled better in a documentary. It really would. There's just so much information being thrust in different parts of the movie that I can understand why people really don't like it. Um, Not to say that it's unwatchable, but it feels long. It's 2.5 hours long, and I think there's a 3-hour cut of the film as well that may be out there somewhere. So yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, there's a standard definition archival presentation of the extended cut of the movie, which I think is that 3-hour cut. That the actual cut is 2.5 hours long. There's an audio commentary by cinema author and critic Matthew Esprit Gear on the theatrical cut. Audio commentary by film historian and filmmaker Daniel Kramer on the extended cut, new interview with actor Malcolm McDowell, and then more special features to come along perhaps after that. But let's move on to Tales of Adventure Collection number 4. This is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. So, what we have here from the golden age of the Republic serials gets set for Atomic Tales of invading aliens, invisible soldiers, mad scientists, and evil geniuses, one episode at a time. The forerunner of today's serialized television dramas, these weekly cliffhanger dramas kept cinema goers returning for the next installment with high production values and superb special effects by Howard and Theodore Leidecker. This special collection also adds the re-edited film versions, loaded with brand new special features, including audio commentaries and video essays, plus a new 2024 feature documentary looking at the history and legacy of the Republic 40s and 50s sci-fi serials. This is an amazing box set. This is a historical box set. If you're into film history, if you're into like old serials from the 40s and 50s, that would then go on to influence the modern day science fiction that we love today, this box set's for you. So what do we have here? King of the Rocket Man from 1949, Flying Disc Man from Mars from 1950, The Invisible Monster from 1950, Radar Men from the Moon from 1952, Zombies of the Stratosphere from 1952, Mysterious Dr. Satan from 1940, Commando Cody, Sky Marshal of the Universe. Now, Zombies of the Stratosphere is in standard definition, and Mysterious Dr. Satan is in standard definition as well. And then there's a feature film version of the serials, Lost Planet Airmen, Missile Monsters, Slaves of the Invisible Monster, Reddick the Moon Menace, Satan's Satellites, Dr. Satan's Robot. So, excuse me. So if you are not familiar, basically in the 1940s, in the 1950s, there would be theatrical serials, which were basically long form storytelling, long form entertainment, just like we have with television now. Of course, this was before television was a thing. They would have these theatrically exhibited serials that would run probably, I would say probably before a feature film. They would run on them, or maybe by themselves or standalone. And Republic Pictures was a legendary company that made a lot of these ones. These have been available on DVD for years, but to get them in high definition, to get them on Blu-ray in general, has been a bit of a chore because, you know, obviously this is very niche. You know what I mean? These are not theatrical films. These are like for example, King of the Rocket Man runs like, I think like 2 hours and 45 minutes long or something, but it's 12 parts. It's 12 episodes. First episode, I think, is 30 minutes. I think the rest are like, 13 to 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And so they're episodic. It's episodic television before episodic television. This box set's amazing. This box set's amazing. I want it just for its historical value. Now, if you're familiar with the adventure Tales of Adventure collections, they put out 3 of them before. I have the first one. I have the first one here. Um, as you can see, here it is. It's the usual, top loading cigarette box type of set that comes off the top. So you got that, and then they got all the details on the back. That's how, and they're all individually cased for the most part. For the most part, I'm curious what they're gonna do in terms of how many discs for each of these releases. Let me check. Let me check if I can get that info on it. Nope, that's not what I wanted. So let's see. It is limited to 1,500 copies. No, we don't have any. Oh, 7 discs. Okay, so it's 7 discs. This box set's 7 discs. But I am super excited for it. Like I said, historical, unprecedented, fantastic box set. I do still need to get box sets 2 and 3. The movies in them are kind of like B movies. Each box set has had a different theme to it. I know the second box set was like a movie that took place in like the jungle. The first one was like Middle Eastern folklore, like 1,001 Arabian Nights, stuff like that. Aladdin and Genie and all that kind of stuff. And the second box set, like I said, was in the jungle movies. The third box set, let's see, what's it? Tales of Adventure 3. Tales of Adventure 3 was, I think, is that the swashbuckling one? Yes. Yes, it was. Oh no, it's not. It was. I don't know what this one is about. It's kind of a mixed bag here. It's kind of a war movie one, I think, not a swashbuckling one. Yeah. Yep. This is like a military one. The third one was like a military one. It had 10 Tall Men, The Heroes of Telemark, Sands of Kalahari, and The Lost Command. So obviously all military based movies for the third volume. And now this fourth volume is movie serials from the 1940s and 50s. So very eclectic, very diverse. Awesome from Imprint. Really great. So that is that from Imprint. Now let me look at what else I have to show you. I think I've got some individual things here, and then I've got a mainstream thing that I think I'll save for the very end. So let's go over to Ignite Films. Ignite Films is a company that's only put out one release so far, and that was Invaders from Mars. And I know a lot of people got that release from, I think it was late 2022 into 2023? Let me check. Invaders from Mars, I know, was on a lot of people's like best of the year list last year. Yeah, so it came out in typically 2023. For the most part, late 2022 into 2023. And Invaders from Mars was put out by Ignite Films. And they're putting out another film. And this film is called The Story of G.I. Joe. It's coming out just on Blu-ray. It's not a 4K, and it's a William Wellman film from 1945. That immediately piqued my interest. So it's a movie starring Burgess Meredith and Robert Mitchum. Sold me right there. You sold me right there. So, description. Embark on an unforgettable journey through the harrowing yet heartwarming landscapes of World War II with the story of G.I. Joe, directed by William Wellman and based on the true life experiences of renowned war correspondent and columnist Ernie Pyle, portrayed by Burgess Meredith. This cinematic masterpiece immerses you in the camaraderie, courage, and sacrifice of the brave soldiers of Company C, 18th Infantry. Through the lens of Pulitzer-winning Pyle, portrayed with unparalleled depth by Burgess Meredith, witness the everyday grit and bravery of the foot soldier as they navigate the perils of combat in the Italian campaign. Joining him is the incomparable Robert Mitchum in his breakthrough role as Lieutenant Walker, whose leadership and unwavering dedication to his men inspire hope amidst the chaos of war. So yeah, you've got a war movie told in 1945, obviously towards the end of the actual World War II. You've got a grizzled Robert Mitchum as like the captain of these men, of this group. And he's like stoic. He's trying to be strong for them. And, You've got Burgess Meredith, who is this war correspondent journalist who goes along to basically follow them on their day-to-day lives and trials and tribulations of the GI, of the infantrymen, of the boots on the ground guy. You know what I mean? The grunts, if you will. And it's based, like I said, based on a true story. Burgess Meredith is fantastic in the movie. Robert Mitchum is fantastic in the movie. It's a really great film. It's a great film. This is coming with a new restoration from a preservation element. So whatever is surviving from there. It's got a new interview with Bill Wellman Jr. It's got new the story of the story of GI Joe, a new featurette on the restoration by film restoration supervisor Gregg Kimball. New Here He Lies Where He Longed to Be. Wild Bill Dog's Face Blues, a new video essay by author and filmmaker Scott Tafoya, then an audio commentary by Alan K. Rhodey, the film historian there. Yeah, this movie is fantastic. This movie is like really, really good. It reminded me a lot of Band of Brothers. If you've ever seen that miniseries, that HBO miniseries, Band of Brothers, or if you've ever seen, something like Saving Private Ryan, you know what I mean? It's not obviously it doesn't have that modern day aesthetic to it. Doesn't have that modern day action packed, drama and action packed effects and all that kind of stuff. But it gets at the heart of the human experience of World War II warfare specifically. How the mental strain and the physical strain can take its toll. So it does that very, very well. William Wellman was a fantastic director. So that is the story of the GI put out by Ignite Films. Like I said, the only thing they put out is Invaders from Mars, which I know a lot of people had on their end of the year or best of the year list for 2023. I still need to get it. I know there was an issue with it when it came to getting it from the website. I think it came damaged and there was some issues with getting it replaced and all kinds of stuff. I wasn't quite sure. I just came across that on the Blu-ray forums. But either way, this is their second release, I believe. So moving along to another individual release, Second Sight. Second Sight is doing it once again. First of all, we did get an update about the Hitcher 4K that they've been working on seemingly forever. So within the next 2 weeks, we should be getting some more information on a release date and when pre-orders should be able to be happening on that. Can't wait for that. But we are getting one of their limited edition releases, and that is coming August 19th of the movie You're Next. The movie directed by Adam Wingard. Now, coincidentally, on my birthday, I watched Adam Wingard's movie The Guest, which I have the limited edition 4K of from Second Sight. So imagine this, but for Your Next, and put these on the shelf together, and you got yourself a nice little double feature here. So that's really interesting. That's going to be really cool to see on the shelf. This is an amazing deluxe set, just beautiful in every way, almost too good to hold. Really, it is. I'm afraid it's going to fall apart in my hands. Not that the quality is bad, but just like I feel like it's too delicate to hold. You know what I mean? Beautiful set, but they're putting out Your Next, so it's going to go right next to this on the shelf. So let's get into the details about what's happening with that. So that is coming with a new 4K restoration with Dolby Vision grade, new commentary, plus hours of new bonus features. Also includes a 20-page book with art cards. Big thanks to all of their contributors. That's what it says here on their press release. So special features are new audio commentary with the director Adam Wingard, audio commentary with Wingard, Simon Barrett, Sharni Vincent, and Barbara Crampton. Children of the 80s, a new interview with Adam Wingard and Simon Barrett, The Most of Us, a new interview with producers Keith Calder and Jess Wu Calder. Script as a Blueprint, a new interview with actor AJ Bowen. Down in the Basement, a new interview with actor Joe Swanberg. Be Funny and Die, a new interview with actor Amy Seimetz. Falling Into Place, a new interview with production designer Tom Hammock. Slashers Don't Die, Tim Coleman on Your Next. Who's Next? The Making of Your Next. And then animated storyboards, and then 120 page book, 6 collectible art cards, all the extra swag that they like to put in. The artwork on it looks incredible, the artwork always looks incredible. It is available to pre-order right now from their website, and I think perhaps other places as well, like Orbit DVD, perhaps Diabolic DVD as well. But yeah, this is going to be a must get. I am so far behind on getting second sight releases. So far behind. I still need to get It Follows. I still need to get um Green Room. I still need to get their Ginger Snaps release. I still need to get their release of Sean Baker's film. Yeah, there's so much I need to get from them, but the, they're there. The Cronenberg film, I still need to get, but yeah, that's just adding more to my. This is just adding more to my list. It really is. The list never ends. The list never ends. So that is your next from Second Sight. Awesome. We're gonna get some Hitcher news in the next 2 weeks as well, so I'll probably be reporting on that the next time we meet. But another individual release, this time from 101 Films, is Incendies. Incendies, this is from their Black label. This is getting a 4K UHD this August. This is Denis Villeneuve's Incendies from 2010. This is a movie with a capital M. What a film. I have this on Blu-ray, I think. Just regular like Region A Blu-ray, but this is getting a 4K release. Before establishing himself as one of Hollywood's biggest names, Villeneuve adapted this story of Canadian twins uncovering their mother's mysterious past. Villeneuve's powerful and heartbreaking tale is presented here from a new 4K master, supervised by the director himself. Watch this movie going into it with knowing as little as possible, and it will blow your mind. What a film. What a film. Yeah, it's got their release here includes the UK debut of behind the scenes doc Remembering the Ashes, Incendies Through Their Eyes, as well as an archive commentary with director Villeneuve, enclosed in a limited edition slipcase with newly commissioned artwork and booklet. This is coming out August 12th. So Incendies, 4K UHD, 101 Films, their Black label line. Book it. Book it. Watch the movie. Watch the movie. Okay, so let's see. What do we've got next? Oh, I think I know what I clicked out on. So let me go back to my notes. I think that's what I ended up closing off that tab earlier. So let me go back to it to see if what I'm missing. Let's see. Before we get to, let's see. Excuse me while I take a few seconds here. Okay, we talked about Criterion, we talked about Kino, we talked about Sandpiper, we talked about Severin, we talked about Indicator, we talked about Imprint, we talked about Umbrella. There was 2 Kinos that I forgot to talk about, so I'll do that right now. Le Doulos and Bob Le Flambeur, I believe are 2 Jean-Pierre Melville films that are getting 4K UHD releases from Kino. So I believe they've also put them out on Blu-ray, so it's kind of an upgrade from Blu-ray to 4K from them. I wanted to mention that. I don't own those. Those were on out of print Criterion DVDs, I believe. Don't quote me on that. At least let's see. Le Doulos. Yeah, Doulos came out in 2019 on Blu-ray, and then I think Bob Le Flambeur came out 2019 as well, and those have been floating around various Kino sales for the longest time. So for those of you who have picked those up, and I kind of feel bad because they're upgrading them. You know what I mean? Kino seems to be doing that a lot. They seem to be going the Arrow route and the Shout Studios route, where they are upgrading very recent Blu-ray editions. So be wary of that. Be mindful of that. If you're looking to add something to your collection, there's only a Blu-ray of it now. Check the boutique label that you're buying from, because they may be one that has a penchant for upgrading their stuff. But getting to the big news of the day, the biggest news to rock the movie collecting world in a long time. We are finally getting a high definition release, a 4K release, mind you, of Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead. Holy heck! It's it is a Paramount Presents release, I believe, and it's coming with a lot of special features. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find the announcement of it now. I know I posted it in our Facebook group. For those of you who aren't part of our Facebook group, it's Chasing Labels, a film collectors podcast. Go on there and we talk about all the stuff we talk about here, basically. So, yes, so it's coming out September 17th, a 4K from Paramount Pictures, part of their Paramount Presents line, Bring Out the Dead from 1999, starring Nicolas Cage, um, written by Paul Schrader. This is a fantastic movie. There's a bunch of special features that it's coming with. Filmmaker focus, Martin Scorsese, Bring Out the Dead, a rumination on salvation, Nicolas Cage on Bringing Out the Dead, Cemetery Streets, screenwriter, Paul Schrader on Bringing Out the Dead, City of Ghosts, cinematographer Robert Richardson on Bringing Out the Dead, on set with Patricia Arquette, on set with John Goodman, on set with Ving Rhames, on set with Tom Sizemore, on set with Mark Anthony. And there's legacy bonus content as well, exclusive cast and crew interviews. I know that I've only ever had this movie, and this movie's only been available on DVD. There's been no other HD release of it until this September. So all I've had is this used DVD for the longest time. And yeah, it's got exclusive cast and crew interviews and 2 theatrical trailers, and that is it. And that's the DVD that's been kicking around in everyone's collection for years. But we are finally getting a 4K UHD release of this great movie. I memory serves the only Scorsese films that haven't made the Blu-ray upgrade or the HD upgrade is Who's That Knocking at My Door and Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. I think those are the only two. If memory serves, I could be completely wrong on that. So correct me if I am. But yeah, so excited. I do also want to give a special shout out to the person who's been working on that set, and that is Justin Beam. Justin Beam, who runs Reverend Entertainment, who does a bunch of special features for a lot of the releases that we buy and we collect. He's been working on apparently this movie for like 2 years. Apparently, he's been working on it for a long time. He had a really long Facebook post about it where, he basically mentions that Paramount's been working on it for 2 years as well. But since Nicolas Cage has been been busy making movies. Martin Scorsese's been making Killers of a Flower Moon plus other stuff. It's kind of hard to like bring all this together. And of course, Justin Beam likes to get the people who worked on the movie in the special features. That's kind of his thing. That's why if you notice that usually the packages that he puts together for Reverend Entertainment for all these releases are people who work on the movies, and it's hard to get a hold of these people. It's hard to get them down schedules and the fact that they're probably still working and all this kind of stuff. One thing we've learned here by doing Chasing Labels and the things we've learned here, I think throughout the movie collecting world, is that these releases that we buy aren't made overnight. They take a while. They take a long time to put together and to come to fruition. So I like to keep that in mind every time I buy these things, every time when we talk about the announcements, every time anything happens really. But yeah, Nicolas Cage, Bringing Out the Dead, Martin Scorsese film. I can't wait for this. The pre-orders are not up yet, but hopefully within the next little while, perhaps next couple of days, we'll get some pre-order action up, and we'll be able to get to buy these. So, this is amazing news. Amazing news. So I wanted to share that with you. I know it's not typically what we do here on Chasing Label. It's not a boutique release, but it's an important release. It really, really is. So I think that's everything. I'm just looking over my notes now, and I think that's everything I have going here. So we're on the 2-hour mark. We might as well get going. I'm tired. You're probably tired. It's late Monday night. And the week is upon us. So thank you all for joining me here on Chasing Labels Spy Number episode 142. I almost forgot what it was. Thank you for watching, for listening. However you consume this podcast, consume it in any way. All the numbers help. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I didn't forget anything. I was looking around to see if I forgot something. But uh, you can check this podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, pretty much any place I think podcasts can be found or listened to. Of course, you can rewatch the live stream here, or you can check out the live stream here every single 2 week time frame alone. We will be resuming the unwatched pile next month, and things like that. So we got some things cooking. I know I say that all the time, but 2 weeks goes by real quick. Goes by real quick. But the next time we meet, the next time we will be meeting up, we will have, of course, new Vinegar Syndrome stuff going on. The Criterion sale will be underway, so hopefully we'll pick up a bunch of goodies from that. And yeah, we'll see what the next 2 weeks has in store for us. So, keep on watching those movies, because I know I will.